Hi, good evening. Sorry, let's try and have a look at this whole VAT implication in South Africa, or the VAT being increased from 15% to 15.5%, and have a look and see at our utility that we've developed that will allow you to do the changes quite easily. Okay, so what I've done here is just given you an idea of the implications in terms of the prices. As you can see, this column here, column B, is my old price at 15%. What I've done is also used another column, and I said, okay, fine, let's take that price excluding VAT. In other words, divided by 1.15, which will give me the exclusive price. Just to interject, in 4POS, the cost prices are all excluding VAT already, which means that we don't really have to go and change the cost prices unless our suppliers are also not registered for VAT. In other words, their prices already include VAT, which means that the cost price will also go up. So you will know which type of suppliers you deal with that's not registered for VAT, and to then adjust the cost prices as well. So for this exercise, we're basically just going to deal with the selling price. All right, so in terms of an item that costs R1 or less, okay, as you can see, it's got a very small impact on the whole thing, and I've left the 2 decimals, 4 decimals in place just so that you can get a better understanding. So the R1 price becomes 1.005, in other words, half a cent, which for you and me, sorry to say, no difference, no real issue. All right, and as you can go, if you go through the whole list of items here, you see that it starts not really impacting on anything other than items more than R200 or so. In other words, even a 199 Rand item will eventually work out to 199.95, which is maybe R1 up. So you will have to decide and say, well, okay, hang on, is it worth my while to change the prices, number one? Number two, remark, to also go and relabel the price products on the shelves with a new price, or just leave things as is. There's also a theory and lots of speculation, and that's why part of the reason we've left it so late to do this video and allow you to use the utility if you choose, that in 2 months' time, possibly, when everybody's woken up and made up their minds about what they want, to revert it back to 15% again. So, you know, it's a open game at the moment. So let's look at prices over 199 then. So 499 becomes 501,495, which means 501 Rand 50 cents, argument's sake, as a rounded figure. 999 becomes 1,003,995, which is 1,004 Rand rounded. Okay, so there's a 4 Rand difference on 1,000 Rand or more. Okay, which is now the 0.005 that we use to calculate that. Okay, so as you can see, only the bigger prices really comes into play. 1,499 becomes 1,506, in other words, 6 Rand 50 difference kind of thing. A 2,000 becomes a 9 Rand difference over there. 2,999 becomes a 13, 14 Rand difference over there. And then from 4,000 up, it becomes 18 or whatever. Now again, if you only sell 1 or 2 of those items at that kind of pricing, then it's got to have no real effect on it. Okay. If you sell thousands or hundreds of those, yes, of course it's going to, because you're now losing, in inverted commas, 20 Rand per item on a 4,000 Rand selling price. So you will decide. Okay, so let's have a look what's going on in 4POS itself currently. So in my system, my product database, you can see there I've got 483 active items out of 914. So there's some airtime items, some disabled items, etc. I don't want to work with that whole list. What I want to do is basically going to work on a certain section or a group of items. So let me say I want to just work with my beer items. Okay, and I press escape and escape one more time. Now I've got 12 items to work with, a much smaller list, easier to check and see what effect it will have. So the first item on my list is Amstel Lager. All of these products here have override prices on. So let's go into that so I can just double explain that again. So I've got a product, Amstel Lager. If I go and look at my pricing, you can see the override price is $1.95. If you do not want that, you would have left that out and it would have become a matrix. Now, as soon as you do a matrix, the utility won't apply to that because the matrix percentages and so on will automatically calculate it. Now, obviously, in this case, there's a 20% markup, 20% matrix, so it will say the price is $47.90. But never mind, we don't want that. Let's just go back to the override price of $1.95. So I'm just going to just undo that and exit. Okay, so that's where I am. So now these are all calculated at 15%. Okay, and I want something somehow, rather than going through 12 or 400 or 4,000 products for that matter, or in some cases, customer cases, 15,000, 20,000, 25,000 products to go and recalculate the selling price. I want the system to do that for me automatically or something. So we've developed a utility to do that, and I'm going to open it up now. It's called FOPOS Update Prices, and the first thing it does a backup for you, okay, just to make sure you've got something to go back to. In other words, let's assume for the moment you made a big boo-boo, and you now say, oh, all my prices are messed up, etc., etc. You can go back to whatever that backup is there. So make a note of where the folder is, where is it stored, and so forth, and then you can revert back to that. Okay, so after that, the utility will open automatically, and you'll see that that's what we're looking at there. So that's a lot of information on that screen, so let's go through it slowly. Alright, so first of all, if I just click on it, load and calculate new prices, it runs through the whole database and shows you what it will do. In other words, it shows you what is available. Now, let's start at the top left. Here, I want to do something in terms of a pricing rule. In other words, I want to tell the system, you know what, in certain cases, this is what I want you to do with the price. I don't want to land up with 2 cents and 3 cents and 10 cents and 9 cents and so on. As you can see over here, Absolute Blue is going to be recalculated at 1809. No, I don't want that. That's not the way I want to do things. So I want to tell the system, okay, fine. I want you to work on all products over 9 Rand. Okay, 999, argument's sake, 9 Rand 99. Okay. Then what I want you to do is I want to have a look at all items that is less than, argument's sake, 30 cents, okay, or 29 cents, or whatever number you decide, okay. So let's say 30 cents, okay, just as an example. In other words, the last two parts, the cents of the new price, that's what I'm referring to, okay. It must round all amounts below 30 cents, okay, to the lower Rand value, else the amount is rounded to the next higher Rand. In other words, in this case, 9 cents, yes, of course, it's less than 30 cents, so it's going to go down to 18 Rand, right? And then it says, after you've done that, then remove whatever amount that you want to take off. Maybe you say, I want to remove 1 cent. In other words, you want prices that says 17.99, okay? Or you might say that, no, I want you to remove 5 cents because I don't want to deal with 5 cents, or 10 cents for that matter. So let's do a couple of different ones, okay? So again, just to make it simpler, over here I'm going to just filter on it so that we have a shorter list to work with. So there's my pricing group beer is still there. I'm going to press escape, and the system automatically recalculates that. So now you can have a look at the concept. Okay, so let's work through this quickly. So this absolute lager that we mentioned earlier was 195 Rand. With the new VAT, it will become 195 and 98 cents. Based on the rules over here, okay, what will it do? So it says, okay, the cents are greater than 30 cents. In other words, 195.98 is greater than 30 cents. round it up to the next rand, and then remove a cent. In other words, 195.98 becomes 196. Remove 1 cent, so it gives you 195.99. And we try to make it even more simpler for you, so you can go and have a look and see in which cases which rules are applied. Okay, so as you can see, the light blue ones, let me click over there so you can see the light blue ones, or whatever that color might be, will show based on that the cents is bigger or larger than 30 cents rounded up and then 1 cent removed, and then the yellow ones is no change. In other words, the system says don't change anything. In other words, there 20 rand becomes 20 rand and 10 cents. Don't change it based on my rule, okay? Because my rule says if it's less than 30 cents, okay, which in this case it is, round it to the lower rand value and then make it, it would have become 19.99, which would have then said, no, hang on. Why would the price now be less than what you had it on in the first place? Okay, play around with the concept. Maybe I'm going too fast or not. There's some other rules up here. Apply the pricing rule. In other words, this rule here, not the rule of the department or anything. Show the updated prices, and then it also says do not update prices if new price is less than old price. Okay, in other words, I don't want the prices to drop now. It must go up or not change. That will make sense. Okay, so what I'm saying, let's go back here now and say, but okay, hang on, let's say we were going to go and do 10 cents off. All you will then do is say load old and calculate prices, then it will go through the same again, and as you can see, that now becomes 195.90 versus the 195 that it was on again. So you're going to get 90 cents more for your Amstel lager item. Okay, one more thing that you'll see on here, it obviously shows you all the shrinks on the system as well. So if a product is has multiple shrinks, it will show you all the shrinks in here as well. You could also go and select what must it do with the other sales channels. The concept is, the idea is that you'll do and run this based on a sales channel. In other words, do one sales channel first and then do the others as well whenever. Okay. And then the filter, as I explained, will then say, okay, fine, do the update, filter it by department or however you want to do it. Now you might decide, no, I'm going to do everything in one go. Okay, I think it will work. I'll check it later. I just want to get it done. And then you can go and say, all right, fine, update it. Okay, now remember, now I have a backup. So I can go here and say, okay, fine, save and update. Alright, and it says filter prices updated. Now let's just bear in mind that one. Amstel Lager has now become 195.90, right? Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And then go back, and it does another backup for me just in case. Sorry, we're finicky about backups because you've got to have some way to go back. Now, if I go back to 4POS, okay, remember now I haven't refreshed the screen, so it still shows the old prices. I must just go out of here now. I know I don't want to update. Let's go back. I'm in stock by detail, and if you see the prices there, again, appears as if it's not changed, but let's go into it because the update hasn't happened yet. In other words, update POS hasn't happened. So let's go and look at our pricing over there, and there you can see the update override prices is 195.90 as per the utility. All right, and if I go out, you wish to update, yes, thank you, and go back in just to double check that what I'm saying is actually true. You'll see my prices have now changed according to what the update is now. Okay, so one more thing that you need to bear in mind is that if I go back to details here and I go and check my VAT rate now, I click on standard over there, it's now changed to 15.5%. Now, critical that you need to understand that we've only done beer now. We haven't done any of the other departments. So if I go back and I undo my filter or clear my filter, then alright, all my other products are still the way the prices were before I started this whole exercise. In other words, Coca-Cola, argument's sake, which will be in a department called cold drinks, that hasn't been changed. Yes, the VAT has changed, okay, because VAT is standard for all products, but the item itself is still at the wrong price. or the old price, shall I say. Okay, so bear that in mind. And of course, in this case now you'll see that all of these are matrices. So if I go and I do a filter or run the same utility now for cold drinks as a department, the Coca-Cola will not come up. Let me just show you that one more time. I'm just going to open up my program again that will update the prices. And of course you can put that on the desktop if you want to. And the program will now open up. If I now go and say fine, let me filter pricing group on cold drinks, which is over there. And I escape, and I'm going to apply the same kind of rule, arguments like 30 Rand, 20 Rand, whatever the case may be. Take the 30 cents and then remove 10 cents from there. All right, you can see there that, and I then obviously say load and calculate the 199 again for 2-liter Coca-Cola, not the 1-liter Coca-Cola. Let's go back. Not the 1-liter Coca-Cola, for the 2-liter Coca-Cola is showing up. 1-liter Coca-Cola doesn't show up because everything was override or matrix prices, sorry. Okay, that's why it won't show and it won't change anything. Those items will stay as is. In other words, they're part of the matrix. Okay, maybe I said too much, maybe I said too little, I'm not 100% sure. Give us a shout on our WhatsApp number if there's any issues with it or something you don't understand, then we can try and explain to you. And please, once again on the WhatsApp, be nice. Okay, too many customers think that they have some sort of right to insult us and reply some things like, when will you be replying? It's been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. It's just absolutely ridiculous. You're welcome to pay for our time, and then we'll take care of you faster. Have a nice day.